Donald Trump made a lot of claims about what he was going to be able to do within the first 24 hours of his presidency. Hell, Donald Trump made a bunch of claims about what he would be able to do prior to even becoming president. Anytime after the election, or even before the election, actually, when the stock market would peak up a little bit, he'd be like, this is because they know I'm going to win. And then after, this is because I won. And now he takes credit for anything, unless bad things happen. You see, when bad things happen, it's the fault of the previous administration, even though they won't allow the previous administration to say it's anybody's fault but their own. So Karoline Leavitt yesterday, during her first press briefing, was asked about the price of eggs surging now that Donald Trump is in office. And you'll never guess how she answered the question. Maybe you will. But if your guess is she said, yeah, there's a problem and we're on the page to fix it. We're in control now, and anything happens is the responsibility of the president, and we're going to take the buck stops here. Kind of a Harry S. Truman message. If that's what you think she answered with, you've not been paying attention to Trump for any time at all. Here is the reporter asking a question about the surge in the egg price and her answer.
Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage. So I will leave you with this point. This is an example of why it's so incredibly important that the Senate moves swiftly to confirm all of President Trump's nominees, including his nominee for the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who is already speaking with Kevin Hassett, who's leading the economic team here at the White House, on how we can address the egg shortage in this country. As for costs, I laid out the plethora of ways that President Trump has addressed saving costs for the American people over the past week. He looks forward to continuing to doing that in the days ahead. Thank you.
Did you get that? So when egg prices surged under the Biden administration, it's Biden's fault. When egg prices surge in the Trump administration, it's Biden's fault. It's so stupid. What happened to the promise that you'd be able to take care of this within 24 hours? I guess you were too busy solving the Ukraine-Russia war. That's not solved. I guess you were too busy securing peace in the Middle East. That's not secured. What have you been doing? You made a lot of promises, but now all of a sudden, it's Joe Biden's fault. It's a hard job. Things you guaranteed you'd be able to solve. And then there is the insanity about the killing of chickens. Not saying why, not giving any context whatsoever to the very real responsible effort made on the part of chicken farmers and the federal government to avoid another pandemic, or at the very least epidemic of disease from the bird flu, which is starting to infect human beings. This is from CBS News. U.S. egg industry sees record chicken deaths from bird flu outbreak. More than 20 million egg-laying chickens. By the way, this headline is prior. This was published prior to this press briefing. This was 2 weeks ago or so, maybe more. More than 20 million egg-laying chickens in the U.S. died last quarter because of a bird flu, data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows, marking the worst toll inflicted on America's egg supply since the outbreak began. The record number of chicken deaths, which include those birds culled when infection is discovered in a flock, come as figures show egg prices have soared to the highest they have been in years, driven in large part by the virus. Unlike in past years, in 2024, All major production systems experienced significant losses, including conventional caged, cage-free, and certified organic types, a USDA report said this month. Some of this is because during the winter time, the sun and sunlight and heat degrade the outer layer of a virus. This is what I read. So it's less effective. There's less efficacy to kill. In the wintertime, not only is that decreased where the virus is more robust, but also it's carried in like infected milk droplets and on workers' clothes from pen to pen, and infects large swaths of these birds, and they die. They die from the virus, and then also when the virus is discovered running rampant, the entire flock has to be put down because they want to protect not only the other birds, but also human beings. They don't want this to cross species, which is already starting to happen. Now, before I get to this reading from the CDC, you wouldn't expect Donald Trump to have any understanding or respect for the deleterious effects of a pandemic on the world, or just on the country, or just on his family. Donald Trump ignored COVID for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks until it got a stranglehold in the United States, and we as a country performed far worse than just about every other country in the developed world. Because Donald Trump ignored COVID. It's going to go away. Just wait in 2 weeks. We have one case. It's going to be zero. Miraculously, it's going to be zero. That never happened. 1.5 million people died in America because of Donald Trump's fecklessness, because of his conspiracy theories, because his inaction, because of his spreading lies about wearing a mask. He's too macho to wear a mask. He created an atmosphere in the United States that unseen before a Trump administration. And it's not going to be any better with health risks on the horizon relative to these types of viruses. This is from the CDC. CDC confirms first severe case of H5N1 bird flu in the United States. A patient has been hospitalized with a severe case of avian influenza, a H5N1 virus, H5N1 bird flu infection in Louisiana. This marks the first instance of severe illness linked to the virus in the United States. The case was confirmed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Friday, December 13th. Since April 2024, there have been a total of 61 reported cases of H5 bird flu reported in the United States. This is why so many millions of birds have been disposed of, killed, euthanized, destroyed, because they want to stop a pandemic, or what could be a pandemic. It doesn't really sit well with Donald Trump and the conspiracy theory idiots. He wants Robert Kennedy Jr. to be in charge of Health and Human Services, someone who's against the COVID vaccine, which just decimated the spread of a virus that was not going away anytime soon. The same vaccine that Donald Trump took credit until it was unpopular for developing. You don't hear him talk about Operation Warp Speed anymore. Or if he does, he doesn't say what that is. The very first press briefing, and this is where we are, being asked direct questions about promises that were made and then shoving off responsibility onto somebody else because it can't be Donald Trump's fault. Nothing can be Donald Trump's fault. When gas prices, and they're on the rise right now too, when they ultimately are peaking and they're asked about it, watch how they try to put it on Joe Biden that they're high. When grocery prices in general start to rise because of tariffs and other policy initiatives of Donald Trump, they'll try to blame it on Joe Biden, even though the same thing I just said. Anything that happened during Joe Biden's administration is his fault. Anything that happens during Donald Trump's administration is also Joe Biden's fault. Stupid, gross, silly, conspiratorial, irresponsible, feckless, not leadership. What do you think? Comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, as always, daily@dollemore.com. I do want to hear from you. Please support this work in independent media. Help me make these videos, produce this content, reaching millions of people every single month. You can take a part in that. $2 a month $1.99. Click the join button below, become a channel member. $2 a month over on Patreon. All of it goes a long way to keep the lights on, keep me flushing microphones or whatever. Anyway, I love and appreciate you. Thanks to your passion, your commitment to making this country and by extension the world a better place. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.